Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast that rejoices in the fact that Celtic have fans all over this great big planet. And who are we joined by today? We have Ian in Wales. What up, Ian?
Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. Happy second week of the year in work to everyone. It's a struggle. Second week always worse than the first week. So I hope everyone's getting there.
It's a funny thing to wish people a happy one of, but okay, we'll take it. And Michael in Italy, long time no see.
Long time no see. Buongiorno, buonasera, or wherever you are in the world.
Yes.
I'm in Rome today, so
wherever they are in the world, from Kelvin side. Sorry, I was just going to say from Kelvin side to Kilmarnock, Burn to Burniston, wherever you happen to be in the world. You're very much part of a Celtic world. And hello to everyone in the comments. Comments are flying in left, right, and centre. It's already busy in there, so must be a lot of emotion being expressed. Not sure what this is about. Why would you be called Shadwell, Ian?
I don't know who is Shadwell. Monty's he does like an obscure reference every now and then, so I don't even know who Shadwell is.
Does Shadwell mean anything to you, Mickey?
Nothing at all.
Well, do you remember the movie ID about football hooligans?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's fantastic. It's an old movie, an old film, but it was basically Millwall, and they were going to the Den, and it was they were the Lions. That's Millwall, but this had it Shadwell, and they weren't the Lions. They were the something else's, and they went to some other dwelling place of a lion. That's the only Shadwell I know. So unless he thinks you look like the guy from ID.
I'm happy enough with that. If I give off an aura of like being a bit handy, I'll take that.
Well, he was a policeman undercover, acting as a football hooligan.
Oh dear, it's a slur then.
Anyway, I'm just pulling up a few comments, a few greetings from everyone. If anyone sees in the comments a clarification of who Shadwell is, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just get on with it. And what are we going to talk about? Well, I haven't had a menu made up for today. But we're going to talk about the most recent game, obviously. But I mean, a lot of people have already gone through that. But we'll do our usual thing, flick through the images, talk about how it went, and individual performances, and who's had enough of who. I'm sure there's going to be some of that. And a little bit of transfer tittle-tattle, what's real, what's not, anything worth pursuing. And of course, we have to preview Kilmarnock in the Cup, because as the title of the show is, it's, confidence or concern? Two massive, massive games coming up, potentially season-defining games. And, we need to get a handle on where we're at with the games. And we can only base it so far, really, on our recent form, which is patchy, I suppose you could say. The results are patchy. Anyway, now, before we start into this game, gents, I didn't watch it live. I just woke up in the morning and I thought, I'm going to avoid my phone. And then I immediately didn't avoid my phone. I just went into our WhatsApp group.
Easier said than done.
And I was just reading all the WhatsApp messages. And then I looked on Twitter and read those. And it sounded to me like it was going to be a bad game, one where we didn't turn up. And I wasn't looking forward to watching it, to be honest. First thing, But then I started watching it and I was taking notes, was watching it, and I was like, oh, first 20 minutes, we've been very good. And that changed to 30 minutes, and that changed to 40 minutes. And then actually by halftime, I was like, how are we 1-1? We should have scored multiple goals. They got one goal. They were ruthless. But, maybe the second half's a different story. And then the start of the second half, we were good again. And I'm thinking, how is this game going to turn on its head and end up 3-3 and everyone's unhappy? Can't see it coming. And it all happened after we scored. So for a large portion of that game, we were very good. And I think it's easy to forget that once you live through in real time, what happened thereafter. So I just thought that was quite interesting. The perception of the game that I got from social media compared to the experience of watching it after the perception that I got from social media was very different. So that's a very long introduction. So we just get into the incidents, Ian? Would you like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Well, the first thing that happened, we got an early goal. Talk to us about this goal.
So, a fantastic ball from deep from Taylor, so much so that I had to wait for the replay to see that it wasn't a mishit, but it was a really good kind of deep cross. And interesting. I mean, it was one of those ones you think someone's going to try and volley it, but obviously it's the right height for McCowan. He's a bit smaller, perfect header back, and a really classy goal. And without skipping too far ahead, he's doing the thing that Bernardo should have done, and he kind of tries to at least head it downward to make it difficult. One of the football basics. So really nice goal. And like you said, it was a kind of capped off a great start with a lot of possession. And lovely goal.
Amazing place to score a header from. Kind of rare to score headed goals from that spot.
I think you need good technique. I mean, I think it's no secret McCarron does have good technique, especially for traditionally for a Scottish player, because it's not top of the list when it comes to developing that we want technique, we want fighting and all that sort of stuff. But very good technique, and the fact he had the confidence to kind of take it on and do it. He's really McCown's done really well since he came to us. I think he's been a massive surprise, and he's been a real kind of good find. I think when he actually came off in the second half was a bit surprising, because you were like, he was one of the the brighter sparks on the day.
But at least we replaced him with our super sub, who comes on and changes games, and isn't one to be written off. But we'll come to that later. Obviously, I'm being facetious there, Michael, talking about Hatate. But all right, Let's get on with these moments then. This was on 17 minutes. Yang started a breakaway with a pass to Kyogo out to the right, if you remember this, Mickey. And Kyogo.
Sure, I remember it too well.
Then,
yes, I do remember. Yes, I remember this part. Yeah, I do remember
played
now.
The ball into Ida here, who just doesn't make it happen.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Go ahead.
I think Yang's pass, Kyogo's movement was great. Kyogo's ball into the box was perfect, and I just don't know why Ida doesn't get his foot right around that ball, because he just seemed to, I don't know, he just didn't, almost like he backed out of it right at the very end for some reason. But I think if it had been the other way around, Kyogo finds himself in that position, he scores every time.
Yeah, we needed Kyogo sending balls into Kyogo, didn't we?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Peter, to be perfectly honest with you, Grant kept talking about how, just get the whole of the side of your foot on that ball. Instead of, you can see the way his foot is shaped there. He's kind of, I don't know what he's trying exactly, but
I don't think anyone. Well, I mean, he's a big boy, and he can't afford to do that, especially in the streak he's on. No. I don't think, probably, I don't know if this is the right time to bring up about Ida, Gav, but he's obviously proven that he can score goals, because he did that second half of last season, and he's got a couple of goals this season. But really, he's really had about, like, I think we're probably into double figures in terms of really poor performances this season already, before you even look at the goals. I think Celtic fans forgive a lot if you are showing endeavour and working hard. And I'm not saying that Ida doesn't work hard, but he doesn't make the most of his attributes. Big guy, physical guy. And there was a point, I think it was in the second half, where there was guys just jumping above him to head it from the Dundee side. And you were just like, you should at least be jumping for that, if not winning a header, taking it down on your chest. And I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with Ida's development, because it seems like he's regressed. And I think the price tag is maybe weighing on him. But unfortunately, he's at a club where these things matter. I mean, I know people are like, oh, we shouldn't criticise him, we should support the players and stuff like that. Yes, to a degree, but we should also call it when we see it. And sometimes the club is too big for people. and it might be too big for Ida. I think he's got to, between now and the end of the season, he's either got to find a way to score a decent amount of goals, or he's got to score a couple of big goals. Otherwise, he's going into the next season under real pressure. So he was a nightmare all night.
There's Ian, unable to keep his anti-Ida powder dry until we get to that section.
I'm not anti-Ida. I'm not anti-Ida. No, I'm not anti-Ida. I would like every Celtic player to be a success, but I think if we're looking at where we are and what we've got at our disposal, he's just not doing the business, and someone needs to have a word with him.
That's an explanation of Shadwell from Naked Video. Remember that sketch show? That was a good sketch show. It was before your time. Before
my time, probably. I'll see if I can find an old video on YouTube.
The thing about Ida is he's still doing some things right, He's not doing everything wrong. He's not a complete muppet, and he's been unlucky as well. There was a moment here where he was free in the box and a cross came in from AJ on 20 minutes, and he's got himself into a great position, a great space, but the ball's just floated too high over the top.
Would you have had confidence, Gav, if that ball was perfect for him scoring?
I think he would have scored.
Still, it looks like he scored. It looks like I would have scored from that still. It's like 1 yard out.
If it was on his nut, but it's just unfortunate. I haven't given up on Ida, far from it. But as I say, there's a section, and you will know this, in having studied the run sheet in great detail, you'll know that we're going to talk about individual players after we've run through the game. So, you can just repeat everything you said when we get to that bit. How's that? Yeah, I think he was just a bit unlucky at times. I mean, obviously he's not entirely right, but anyway, we'll get to that. Speaking of people who should have buried headers, Mickey, this is Bernardo closing in on his one. Head it down, son, head it down.
Yeah, that's definitely a headed down situation. It is coming. He's running quick onto it. He just gets slightly underneath it, but if he just gets up and just puts it down, it's going to go in. The keeper's got no chance there. I mean, it's much different than the McGowan header beforehand. The cross is much more floated. He's able to watch it more. He's really running in on it. He just needs to get on top of it, and it goes in. But he was disappointed with it himself, so.
And at that point,
he had a look of disbelief on his face, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Everything he touched turned to absolute shit. He couldn't believe it.
The thing is, that there should have been 3-0. I mean, if we look at it like that, the Ida chance, all he has to do is get decent contact on it. It's probably a goal. All Bernardo has to do is head the ball down. Like we say, get plenty of time to adjust his body, and then that could be 3-0. It's a different story. I think it's been a reoccurring theme where we maybe have games that are a wee bit off, is not taking our chances early doors, and that's really, we'll come on to the reasons why maybe we conceded the goals, but here at this point you should reasonably say you can forgive maybe one of those sitters, but that's 2 sitters missed.
Yeah, we had loads of chances, as you say.
Someone in the chat there losing their mortgage if they're putting on Ida scoring the same chance as Bernardo.
Okay, next up we have on 37 minutes. Oh yeah, not much was made of this, but Cameron Carter-Vickers getting pulled down in the box, and wasn't a free kick given against him for this here?
Yeah, so I remember that one. I think the problem we've got at the moment is, and I think the referees have cottoned on to it, especially in Scotland, is the clear and obvious error. So these sort of ones, I'm actually noticing they're giving a lot more against us now than they were in the beginning of the season, and nothing's getting reviewed because it has to be a clear and obvious error. It could be, you could argue that looks like 2 players like coming together, and we didn't really see any good replays in the TV. So, I don't think we're going to get anything for that. Because, I mean, put it this way, not to skip ahead, but the one where the guy actually stamped and Trusty's foot, like, he's deliberately done that, and you would expect a free kick with the referee looking at it, but he's not given it, and that's not going to be reviewed because it's not a clear and obvious error. So I think the referees are becoming more literate, and I think there's a certain threshold that you'll need to meet to get penalties or free kicks for that sort of stuff.
And then, is this the next thing that happened on 40 minutes? Not sure if this is the next thing, but this is their goal. They get a breakaway and then they just go forward and ruthlessly finish it. Michael, any suggestion that Schmeichs is in a bad position there?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it was a very quick breakaway. It was good, quick passing between the front few there. Alistair Johnson's trying to push the guy out on the right. And the guy's obviously cut back in. It's a really good finish in the end. And I don't think I would blame Schmeichel for it at all. I think if one of our players had scored it, you'd say, like, brilliant goal from Adam.
Schmeichel positioning himself for what AJ should do, which every kid is taught, whoever plays football, show the player outside. So what Schmeichel has done, you might say, oh, the positioning looks, in hindsight, you might be like, oh, well, it's not right. But what Schmeichel is doing is guarding that near post, because AJ should be showing him outside so that that's the angle that he shoots from. AJ, for some reason, positions himself and like on the inside. I mean, I remember Naroki did something similar against Aberdeen. I can't remember what it was, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's such a basic error and stuff." AJ does have more in the bank.
But AJ is showing the outside. He is showing the outside. He's trying to get him.
No, in the live pictures, he's backing off, where he should actually be taking that step into him to guide him.
I don't think so. I think he was showing the outside. When I was looking at it, he was trying to get him to go wide, But he was quite clever to come back in. That's what I saw.
Agree to disagree.
Yes.
Also on 40 minutes, I'm not sure if this happened just before that or after it. Oh no, this was just before it, because the caption is Ida doesn't connect well with the corner. This is what then sparked the counter-attack, isn't it? That's how they got away. The ball kind of bounces just up off Ida. And that's the problem. You know, he looks so clumsy sometimes. You know, the ball is massive, heavy touches. The ball sort of hits him and bounces off at a funny angle. And when those happens, you just hear everyone going, "Oh, 9 million quid." Oh,
50p hit.
You know, I haven't lost faith in him. He just, like people say, he just needs a goal. I think he's still doing a lot of things right. Don't think he's a complete lost cause. 46 minutes, Bernardo free kick, AJ no contact. What does that mean?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what he was doing here. I mean, you can even see there, you can see where the ball is. He just fails to make any decent contact with it. And I know people will say he's kind of already jumped or whatever, but he can still stick out that leg and get it in. This was another one that was just, you know, you were like, it seems harder to kind of miss the ball almost when you're there if you're paying attention.
There's a few of those. God, we had so many chances. I mean, I know I say that every time we play and we review a game, but it does seem like as a team,
pretty clear-cut ones this time, Cal. I mean, it's this either one, the Bernardo header, that one, they're very clear-cut.
Here's the very lethal £9 million man doing a quick turn, getting himself in on goal, but the defender just sticks a leg out and cuts it out. Bernardo having a shot here. Remember, this was cut back. This is one of those ones that you expect to ripple the net, Mickey, but it doesn't. It just sort of hits a defender, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It hits off the defender. I don't really know, but from that still, it looks much worse than it did in real time. That's for sure.
That's one of those ones you have to hit it back into the corner it's coming from. I think Bernardo is trying to hit it into the opposite corner, but I think he's hitting it into traffic. So just unfortunate.
And then Yang gets his goal, his second goal for Celtic, both of which have been headers, apparently.
That's you know what, that doesn't really surprise me, because whenever myself and Killian were at the Leipzig game, you know, we were right behind the dugout. We were like 2 rows behind the dugout, so you could see all the players warming up. When Yang stood up, he just looks enormous. You don't realize how big he is till you see him in real life. So the fact that his 2 goals are headers seems could be right.
Yang is big.
He's massive. He looked like the same size as Ida. And when he's standing beside Ida, like when we were behind the bench, we thought, who's that guy there? And it's Yang. He's taking his top off. It's like, it was huge. Couldn't believe how big he was. I don't know the
No.
stats. I need to look him up, but it's quite strange when you see him in real life how massive he is.
Yeah. Just looking at the comments here, some people saying Casper is a bit near that big the post. Yeah, so many chances. All right, let's carry on. Next up, 53 minutes. Oh, this is the Dundee goal. No sooner do we score than they go up the other end and score. Oh, God, so annoying.
Missing two crucial elements, and that's still though, Gav. One,
Yes,
the familiar long high ball that Taylor can't get anywhere near because he's just not physically enough and he's caught in the wrong position. Then we'll go on to Trusty. I think if you have a goal of the month or goal of the season, see if you had a shite bag of the season and a shite bag of the month. I think he's had his shite bag of the month and shite bag of the season in this one, because that one there where the ball drops and then he gets caught, after Taylor's missed it, he's missed it. That's two bad errors there. And a lot of people are kind of maybe said CCV's had a bit of a shaky couple of games and maybe not had the season he's done. But I mean, you've got to look what he's playing with here. And he's felt he's had to slide in there, and it's just an unlucky deflection, and it goes in. There's two opportunities to stop that initial ball getting to the guy, and we just don't take either of them. And both, I mean, not as bad for Taylor, right? He's physically, we've discussed it before, physically he's just not good enough, and sometimes his positioning isn't good enough. I'm not bagging too much on him because that's very, very Taylor. But with regards to Trusty, take him out. If you can't get that ball, take him out, because you're wildly out of position. You're on the touch line, and it's just, we got what he deserved there.
It was quite a lucky goal in the end, really, wasn't it?
Well, unlucky, right? Let's examine that word, Michael, because I was just wondering, how do I go about saying what I want to say, which is, I don't want to say Dundee were lucky to be all square with us at 2-2, because they took their chances. We didn't take our chances. We had a gazillion chances and didn't take them. They had a slightest sniff and they were ruthless. They scored 2 goals. I thought we were incredibly unlucky to be at 2-2, more than I would say.
I mean, that last goal was really an own goal, wasn't it? The last one, because if Carter Vickers doesn't touch it, there's no way that's going to go in. It's going to be saved by the keeper. So that's, you're definitely unlucky.
Yeah, but he feels he's got to, and he's got to get to that point because he's so far out of position.
It might come to the guy there, the guy closing in on goal. Where was the ball going?
It's hard to tell. I think it was going towards the keeper. He was perfectly positioned. It was going straight. It's shooting towards the keeper. He just flicked it past Schmeichel. Carter Vickers did, but as you said, I think we are unlucky then to be at 2-2 at that point. Yeah,
so at this stage of the game, I'm thinking back to all the social media stuff that I read before the game about how it totally wasn't a game where, they were all over us and we were hopeless and we couldn't string 2 passes together, which is what it sounded like. Anyway, it is what it is, as people say annoyingly a lot these days. Trusty then, brutal assault on Kasper Schmeichel's foot. You saw this moment, Ian?
I didn't see him stamping on Kasper Schmeichel's foot. I saw the one where the guy stamped on Trusty's foot. Yeah. He just started crying about it.
Yeah. But Schmeichel was over this in about a nanosecond. That's the difference.
Did he not just lie on the ground and cry and complain to the referee?
No, he didn't. Then there was a goal mouth melee. Look at this picture, the amount of our players bearing it on goal. It was offside.
I think that was the only one that counted, though, Gav, was the Kyogo shot. I think everything after that was offside. So it was if Kyogo doesn't finish that, then everything else after it's after the fact.
Mm-hmm. And then on the 77th minute, the Dundee third goal. This is what you were talking about, Ian. Talk us through the events of this. And
so I think
I'm shite bagged too many times.
Yeah, so I think from memory, I don't think it was a free kick. Like, I haven't watched it back. Well, I watched the highlights, but the highlights didn't show. So I think I was a bit skeptical that it was I think there should be a free kick and then the corner shouldn't have been given away. But you kind of saw and this probably came across in the second half, they just started to be more physical with us in general, not in a sort of Motherwell ham-fisted sort of way, but in a just a more like aggressive, tight to people sort of way. And that was no more so than in the corners, because they'd obviously identified that. And Trusty was having a bit of an argy-bargy with the guy, which, I mean, he's been up long enough to know that he shouldn't be doing it. The guy did deliberately stand on his foot. Now, the referee's looking directly at it. If I was the referee, I would be like, well, you know, you've deliberately stood in his foot. That's a foul. It should be given. He hasn't done. So there's nothing you can kind of do about it. But Trusty goes down, cries, oh, what about him? All this sort of thing. Very, you know, not to take it away, he is very American in that sort of gestures. Everything's big and he's kind of doing it. And what it looks like to maybe a Scottish sensibility is an air of panic. You know, even though he might not be looking to do that, that's how you do it. And then that gives the guy confidence. You saw the cross coming in. Trusty is not looking at the ball at all. He is only obsessed with the man. The man outmuscles him, gets a good header. I mean, credit to the guy getting up there and putting it in. But that is Trusty's second. I mean, you know, if we want to say, I wouldn't blame anyone because people have missed the chances. But in terms of the Dundee goals, Trusty has to carry the can for the last two. I think he should make the foul on the line and he should just look at where the ball is and be stronger. I think there's, you know, it's been going around social media. I don't know if you've got it, Gav, but the camera cuts to Brendanrodgers and he's there going, fucking weakest pitch. Like, because even Rodgers is knowing that is just unacceptable. Unacceptable, yeah. So, yeah, so I mean,
and that's leader to work that out.
And again, let's not throw Trusty under the bus. He's had a bad game, but what we don't want, and we've seen it all before, is we don't want a Christoph, Julian, Livingston situation where he gets considered to be a shite bag. Everyone then targets him for being a shite bag, and it starts to become this self-fulfilling prophecy. So, yeah, I don't think there's much at the moment between Trusty and Scales. I think we're struggling. I mean, it's a bigger conversation, but I think we're struggling to replace Starfelt and Julian. I mean, Starfelt and Julian now would be ideal partners alongside CCV. We've had a big, we've had a bit of a downgrade with Scales and Trusty. Time for them to come good, but he needs to learn from it.
I mean, as somebody said in the comments there, Trusty had an absolute shocker, and if it was Scales, he'd be getting pelters. I mean, but Trusty is getting pelters.
He is
and there are loud calls for Scales to come back in and take his place.
Gavin, tell you what, right? See, if that was Scales, there'd be a good portion of people that would just be defending Scales just because he's Irish. I mean, that's just a fact. People would be like, "Oh yeah, but and they'd be excusing him." Trusty's not getting excused by anyone that I can see.
Brian Murray here. Scales has been solid for 18 months. Has made 2 Champions League Team of the Week. Makes 1 error and is hooked. Fans screaming he's not Celtic class. Trusty guff for 2 games and gets a free pass from them. Is he getting a free pass from them though? Do you think? Because like, there's a lot of he's getting.
I don't think he's getting a free pass. He's getting plenty of abuse, and hopefully he'll get back to his old form. Because I mean, we have to remember he was colossal against Atalanta, against Leipzig, away to Dinamo Zagreb. I mean, there's all those games that he was brilliant in. Maybe it's kind of Maybe it's a kind of apathy because we're like 13, 15 points clear in the league. There's a good general apathy about the team a little bit. There is certainly from the fans as well. I mean, Celtic Park is by no means full for any of these last games. They're so far ahead. So people say that the weather was bad and it was cold and all that kind of stuff, but you can see that rubbing off on the players too. When you're so far
Chop
ahead.
is making the point here that he says Trusty's getting it more than Scales did. I don't know. I mean, they both seem to. Scales get a lot of.
Yeah, but the difference is, Gav, Scales will always get defended in the same way. We'll probably go on and talk about Calmac. Calmac will get defended by a lot of people because he's Scottish and the captain and things like that. There's different things around it. One of the contexts that we should mention that we've not mentioned is this is like what? How many games into January are we? Where the guys are playing two games a week and things like that. on another day we'd have scored another couple of those goals and we wouldn't be talking about it in this sort of way. I think it's, it's tough for them to maintain that performance level when they're so far ahead with so many games and things like that. I don't want to excuse anyone. I don't want to give anyone excuses and outs. But I do think we need to also be realistic that, it's such a high volume of games and it's very difficult to keep the intensity level up for the style of football that Rodgers wants to play. That's why we need the players in January to help the team out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if we're 2 points behind the Huns and not 15, 13 points ahead of them, these games are all different for me.
Sure. Yeah. Some interesting views there. Scales better.
Yeah,
than
the Sheffield Wednesday
Scales
one,
is a DEI hire. What? So you can't have any Irish players in the team? They're all DEI hires? Huh? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying there's a section of the support that would support them if they were playing with one leg and they'd say, give them a chance.
Here's Dan saying, and Irish fans warned us about Ida as well. Yeah. All right, but let's carry on with the game.
Clear, we're not throwing anyone under the bus here, but there is legitimate criticism of some of the performances and players. And I think we have to have that conversation because we give it enough praise when people are good and are doing well.
As we did with Scales, of course, when he was doing so wonderfully for a long time and keeping everyone quiet with his performances. Yeah, but the two of them are both prone to bad performances, you have to say. Anyway, the fans were enjoying that, the Dundee fans, when, when they went up. See, there's one fella enjoying himself in the middle there. And then another dude taps off in the cold weather.
Prime Scottish football here.
You a taps off kind of guy, Mickey?
Definitely not. I'm way too cold for that. I've been living in Italy for too long to get my taps off.
I've been told I'm not allowed to anymore. Next offence is getting locked up. So,
all right, and then so we're 3-2 down, and well, I knew the result, so I wasn't that nervous. But I guess watching it must have been, oh no, we're getting beaten here. This is 0
I don't know, Michael. Were you the same as me? I thought we'd get a goal. I
knew we had.
My concern was more that we wouldn't get the winner because we'd left it too late. Like I knew that we were going to get another goal, and it just happened to be the draw. But it kind of felt we'd been so good for the match. It wasn't you were frustrated at the errors, as opposed to thinking we weren't capable of going up and scoring 1 or 2 goals.
Yeah, I definitely thought we were going to get back into the game. I'm sure we're going to get the draw, and he even thought we were going to get the win. But again, we didn't even need to win. A draw seemed to be enough. I was working in the pub for the game, and it was a decent enough crowd, but it was a really good game of football. It was a good advert for the Scottish game. You know what I mean? People were watching it. Some people were watching the Liverpool Forest game was on at the same time. Some people started watching the Celtic match instead because it was so good. It was, also from that point of view, it was a good match.
So we got back into it as a result of this outrageous penalty. I saw some Rangers fans saying, haven't even seen the incident, but penalty to Celtic at the end of the game. I just know it wasn't deserved. Was it deserved, Ian? Does this look like a penalty to you?
I mean, no one with a functioning brain would say that wasn't a penalty. It is funny. I think there's an element of that fan base that's just destroyed because VAR has eliminated about 10 goals a season for them. So they're just annoyed that what it's done is eliminated 10 for them, and it's probably added a couple for us because we'd have not got the rub of the green in the first place or last season or the season before. So yeah, I mean, it's Stonewall making his body bigger. It's on its way to go. I think the thing is, you saw the difference when Kuhn came on. People were a bit frightened of him. I wish he'd ran at players just a little bit more because he only did it once or twice, and the second time was to win that penalty. But you see what a big difference it makes to have Kuhn in there, and I just Engels penalty.
I'm just showing that, yeah.
Pengels,
And then,
that's what he's called now, isn't it? Pengels. That's how they...
Pengels, I saw that. I didn't know what that was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Here's a point from Tony. Rodgers needs to look at himself. He's not playing players to their strengths, obsession with his own style. That sort of ties into the substitutions that he made as well in the game. I see him coming in for a bit of criticism with the substitutions. Michael, what would you point to there for, things that Brendan did that were maybe a bit questionable?
I don't know. He brings on Luis Palma. Is he trying to put him in the shop window, possibly, because he wants to get rid of him before the end of the transfer window? Other than that, everything else looks pretty standard for pretty much every game that we play. For me, I don't see anything particularly strange in there.
One of the things I saw in the social media was that the substitutions made us worse, and it's true that the subs came on in 60 minutes and we started to wobble at 55 minutes or whatever. So, they were there for most of the wobble. The subs were.
The two that stood out for me, Gav, were Scales got taken off in the Derby game for a lot less, you could argue, than Trusty. Trusty should have been taken off for Scales. I think that, he wasn't. If you actually watch some of the highlights back, you can see he was kind of all over the shop all game. I think the other thing you have to kind of say is like Kenny came on and had like a really decent cameo, and you were kind of like, well, we need a goal. Why not bring on the guy that's had like a decent cameo as well? Like I know Vi came on for Yang. I'd have brought Kenny on. So yeah. Oh, and Hatate on for McCowan. I mean, McCowan was the best.
Well, that was the most questionable one of all for me, and that's not just because I've got a bee in my bonnet about Hatate, but when I saw that happening, I was like, "What are you doing?" Shouting at the TV, and then I kept watching Hatate to see if I would be proved right. And he was the Hatate we now know, as opposed to the one we used to know and love, which happens far too often for my liking. Right, so there's lots of people in the comments talking about, don't worry about it, the league is sorted. We've only got so many away games. I see Mahesh saying we're going to drop more away points at this rate in the rest of the season, but maybe we've enough of a cushion. But I don't think is anyone here worried about the league, or are you worried about the games we're about to go into? And our hopes for a historic season are suddenly being thrown into question. If we're vulnerable, we've got a soft underbelly, we can be got at. Are we going to be got at in these next two games, Michael?
Well, the next two games is when we're going to be found out, because obviously the Kilmarnock game is a one-off cup game. So if you get found out in that, you're out. And if we don't beat young boys, it's going to be a disaster, because we've done so much good so far in the Champions League. We've set ourselves up for this home match against probably the worst team in the Champions League. And if we don't stand up and be counted for that one, it'll be another full Celtic Park. These two games, we have to win both these two games, and then all this other chat will be gone. And I think we will win them, because it's not a league game, and we don't have all that cushion. We don't have the apathy from the fans and all that kind of stuff, because if we win, lose, or draw, it doesn't really matter. We have to win both the games. We have to win them both well. And everything will be forgotten, and then we can be apathetic in the league match the following week.
Yeah. Ian, do you want to jump in here while I have a look at the comments?
I mean, yeah, I think we've obviously got two kind of big games coming up. I think now, if anyone, if you said you want to win the Kelly one or the Young Boys one, everyone's going to say the Young Boys, because it means so much to us. But I think, going back to a lot of games, I think that's really impacting our performance, because we don't really have I think at the beginning of the season, we thought we had good squad depth because we didn't need to dip into the kind of backup players that much. But over this period where we have done, you kind of see the importance of January. If we can get, without jumping ahead, if we can get KT and a couple of, like a winger, another winger, maybe defensive midfielder, if we can get some strengthening in there to push the guys that are there to maintain their form, because that's it now. See, with this gap, Rodgers needs to find another way to keep the performance levels high and keep everyone sharp. And the only way you're going to do that is if there's real competition, because if you lose your place, then you're out the team, and that could stretch into the next season. So,
yeah. Other people are saying, I see someone saying they're not worried about the cup. That's an also ran of a tournament, but it wasn't long ago we were saying this is a treble year for the taking. And Rodgers says he wants to win the treble this year. And a treble and progress in Europe, that's officially a brilliant season, right? That's what we're all hoping for this year, and we'll celebrate it
it's where the young boys is, though, Gav. If young boys' game it had been 2-3 weeks either end, people will be treating the cup game more. I think it's just in the context when you look at those two games, because they're only they're just over 48 hours apart. Is it maybe 72? I can't remember. They're very, very close. So I think there's an element of kind of preparing yourself that he's going to want to play the best team against young boys. So we've got no real option against Kilmarnock apart from to play some guys that are definitely not going to be starting against young boys. And then that's where that becomes a problem. So I think there's an element of doing the math in your head to kind of excuse us losing that game or not performing to our best.
Yeah, I think progress in Europe is everyone's priority.
100%.
But yeah, we got to get the trebles going. I mean, we're not entitled or anything, but it's there to be won, right, Mick?
Yeah, it's funny because before all this treble stuff came around or under Brendan Rodgers, when he came the first time, I think we'd only won 3 trebles in our whole history. Then we won 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we've been way too spoiled. We're expecting to win trebles, but with the Huns so bad at the moment, why not? And they were very bad in his first period. Obviously, they weren't even in the same league as us in the first period he was here. So it's always nice to get a treble, but I agree with Ian. I would definitely rest players against Kilmarnock, for sure, for the Champions League game on Wednesday. I don't know who to rest, though.
Yeah.
Some of them are playing bad. Do you put Trusty back in to give himself some confidence? Or do you rest him because you need him? I don't know. It's hard to work that one out.
I think Dane Murray will be putting in extra training sessions because I think he'll see an opportunity there. And I think Kenny, if he's going to play and get a real gauge of Kenny, this Kilmarnock one's the one to do it in, because I don't think he can risk Kyogo. Ida's probably the one that would be best coming off the bench, and I would start Kenny to see what he's made of, and then it's kind of does he stay with us for the second half of the season, or does he go back out and loan, because it's a good test against Kilmarnock.
Yeah, and Kenny, I presume he can't play in Champions League. He's not in the squad, is he?
No.
I imagine he's not.
No.
But, yeah.
Smell the glove with a nice movie reference here. Who can do a good Tony Montana?
No.
When he's asked about the extent of his ambition, I want the world and everything in it.
So none of us can do a good Tony Montana.
All right. Well, look, before we get on to talking about the next games too much, we're supposed to be previewing the cup game against Kilmarnock, but I've got a bunch of images that are probably of not much use because we kind of talked about them already. Everything Celtic tweet. Adamida has now gone 552 minutes without a goal. That's why people are talking about him. He was unstoppable at times last season, which ultimately got him his big move. That player's still in there somewhere. Hopefully the confidence returns and we get that powerful goal scorer we saw in spring. I think we will, for one. Lisbon Lion. Celtic just need to put teams away when on top. Stop trying to walk the ball into the net. I mean, that was the story of that game for me, is that we just didn't take our chances. Ida needs 2 things, a goal and the Celtic fans' support until it comes, from the Celtic blog. This is Brendan on Clyde 1 Super Scoreboard talking about Trusty. You've got to stay on your feet. He's 6'4". You've got to deal with that better. What does Brendan know about anyone being 6'4"? How that feels?
You're 6'4", right, you go?
No, I'm not. 6'2" and a bit.
Oh, who's your man Hamish from Celtic again? 6'4".
Yeah, he's about that height. Now, Callum
Yeah.
McGregor's also been coming in for a lot of stick online. Look
Oh,
at these
careful, Gav.
three in a row. Well, I'm just highlighting the stick he's coming in for. Not saying I'm endorsing it, but he needs benched. He's an empty shirt. He played like he was 40. We need a new central defensive midfielder. His influence and play has regressed. Go on then, handle this deftly in.
I don't think it's any surprise Calmack's getting older. He does look a yard slower than he has in previous seasons. I don't think pace is massively important to him, but I think you can see when he's chasing back and tracking back, he has lost a bit of a yard, which maybe makes him a bit less effective there. We talked about it, or I talked about it when I was on, I think it was last week, and I said there's certain games that he needs to be rested in, more for himself, to get his recovery up, but also so we can see how we maybe manage without them. I don't think Cal McGregor is done by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think we're kind of coming into that period that if he is losing a wee bit of pace, tiring, we need to kind of find different options in there. And we, like I said, covered it last game. In some games, not this one because it didn't happen a lot, but in some games, the games where he acts as the go-between between Trusty and CCV, where he just takes the ball to one, gives it to the other, and just does that all game, we don't need him in those games. Or we don't even really need a defensive midfielder in those games. We need someone with different skill set to do different things. So I think it's kind of a complex one. And like I said, people will lose their head over it because he's the captain, he's Scottish, he's been at the club a long time. So it's that really does augment people's opinion of him. But if you're being honest, he's not, we gave him a lot of praise at the beginning of the season where he was dominating games, controlling them, scoring goals, etc. And I think if you're giving him the praise for his performances there, you have to kind of take a look now and say there's something that's not working in there. Same thing that he's saying about Hatate. Something's not working in there with him. Same thing that when Engels wasn't playing well, we're like, that's not working. Rodgers took him out of the team a bit, come back even better. It's just a difficult one, and I've got sympathy for Rodgers because it is the captain and it's a big statement anytime he rests him or kind of leaves him out. So, I think it's a difficult one to package.
I thought it was interesting when he was rested and we had those other three midfielders. It was good to see that. And just
that was only about 3 games ago.
I understand this captain business, you have to play your captain every game. You're going to exhaust people if you stick to that. I think that should be more fluid and it shouldn't be built up as this big thing. Generally at a football team, the captain has to play all the time. Or you can't pass the captaincy about a bit. I don't think it should be, that important. I thought it was interesting when we had those other three midfielders. It shows that there's the possibility that we can rest him a bit more and, get more out of him at this stage of his career than run him into the ground.
Yeah, I think we've got danger of running him into the ground. I think we played really well when he didn't play. But was it 3 or 4 games ago? And he was rested.
Johnson at home, wasn't it? We see Johnson at home, and then the one that I was referring to is the Dundee United at home. We could have done the same thing there because he was just passing the ball between the centre backs, so we didn't really need him then. And I think, Gav, to your point as well about the captaincy, I think it is very different. I think it's very different in Scotland. I think it's very different in Glasgow because what you have to remember is anything like that, the media will just go absolutely nuts for. Do you know what I mean? If they sense even a little chink, it becomes like a big issue. And I think the captain one is a particularly kind of sensitive one. You've seen across the city, they've persisted with someone who is terrible on account of him being a captain because dropping him means so much. Partly because they put him in the Hall of Fame for scoring penalties, but
I just don't think it should mean so much. Yeah. Do you agree with Jezebel here? A bit rich, Brendan moaning about too many side and back passing after slaughtering the fans for complaining about exactly the same thing. Michael, I didn't really hear your view on the whole Brendan outburst.
His outburst, which one? Sorry, the
recent one where he was saying about it can't happen, the fans can't moan about back passes, nor can they get excited about Kieran Tierney because it's disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. It was very strange the way he brought that up at the time, and I don't think it's right to criticise the fans like that. I mean, if the fans want to sing about Kieran Tierney, why not?
Yeah,
And then I think they did very well, obviously singing all the other player songs the week after, and fans will moan if people backpass all the time.
of course.
That's not what we want to see. Sitting.
Do Celtic have
Celtic.
vice captain? That's a good question from Mahesh. Is there such a thing?
CCV is the
Is
vice
he
captain.
officially?
Yeah, 'cause I think he's always the one that gets. I don't know if I mean how official can it be, but look, there's plenty of people, right? Because there's AJ. I think he's vice captain for Canada. Kasper Schmeichel is captain for Denmark, isn't he? So it's not as if the team is without leaders and without kind of captains. But I think the reason that we don't see it more often is Calmac tends to last the 90 minutes, so he's not passing the armband over. I think it would go CCV next. I think CCV's the vice.
I think so.
Okay. Next section we were going to talk about was a little bit of transfer tittle tattle, but we're running short if we want to really, give any time to Kilmarnock and young boys. But anyway, I'll just flash through a few of these. Looks like Valle out and Tierney in. I'm sure we're all across this news. Wren apparently interested in Kyogo now. Don't know how much truth there is in that. Don't know how much truth there is in any of these. Say again?
10 mil plus Jota, and I think we can sanction the Kyogo one to Wren.
Mm-hmm. Louis Barry. Here's one you'll enjoy. Louis Barry. He could play for Ireland, if he elected to. Maybe if he played for England, everyone would think he was awesome. But if he elects to play for Ireland, he'll be a DEI pick.
Well, if he plays for Ireland, he's got a ready-made portion of the fan base that will never criticise him. So, good move for him to come to Celtic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real, what you're saying. Celtic consider swoop for 8.5 million Spanish winger. You want to talk about this, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, apparently he's been a standout for a team battling relegation. Spanish under 21 winger. I think, probably decent pedigree. I think he's a wee bit in the small side, but I don't think that matters. Kun's a wee bit in the small side. I think Ajax are really in for it says there. Ajax are in for him, but they've yet to kind of meet the asking price. I wonder if there's a deal here to be done to kind of maybe offload Palma as part of that transfer fee, which is why it's come up, because the other Spanish team couldn't get him. So I don't know, but I think it's very clear Tierney, I think, is going to sign that pre-contract, and then it'll be a can we get him in before the end of the window and some deal with Arsenal. And I think we're definitely looking at the wingers, which we need to do because, without Maeda and Kun, completely different team in terms of effectiveness for us.
Is he a left winger or a right winger, Ian, by the way? That's Spanish.
Both. Apparently, he's that classic Spanish. You can't tell which side he should be on, so he's played both, ambidextrous.
Yeah.
Ambidextrous. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's just all talk, isn't it? So let's move it on, shall we? And consider then, let's talk about Kilmarnock in the Cup. Are we going to just routinely sweep them aside and progress to the next phase? Michael, make the case for yes. And then we'll go to Ian for no.
I would say, why not? Why not? Let's rest a few players, bring in a few players that need some game time. We're playing at home. Hopefully some people will turn up for the match. It's a one-off game. Yeah, I'd say yes. We'll do it. We'll sweep them aside. I'd definitely start Kyogo up front, get a few goals for him, and I think get ourselves a bit of confidence ahead of the young boys game. And,
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think all the things that didn't drop for us in the Dundee game will drop for us in this game, and we'll be like, what we're worrying about? We're still creating loads of chances. That was a bit of a freak, the way we allowed them back into the game, and then, to be fair, they played very well once they were back in the game and made it very difficult for us. But, if you take your chances and you get 2 or 3 goals ahead early doors, there's no way back, surely. Ian, you're worried that we might not progress in the cup?
Our form's patchy, isn't it? I mean, our performances are patchy. We're getting results. You know, we've had a couple more draws than we have than the beginning of the season. You know, like our Dundee United draw, Dundee draw, lost to Rangers. I think, like, you know, it's starting to take its toll a little bit. We should have more than enough to beat Kilmarnock at home, even with making the changes. I think it just depends on a number of factors, right? It just depends who's rested, who starts. Like you're saying, if we can take our chances, and also, I mean, we know Kilmarnock's game plan against us when they come to Celtic Park. Might need that referee to be having a look at some of the challenges, but yeah, can't hold out any hope for that because it never happens.
Well, it's good news that Vassels is out because he is a big unit and does put himself about, cause a few problems.
Yeah,
but I don't think the guys struggle with big units because I think CCV's like quite strong. I think it's the pace. I think it's pace. I can't remember the boy who's out wide for Kilmarnock, but he's down there left. That's always the danger with him because he does have like with decent pace. So it's pace that troubles our back line at home more because we push up and leave the big gap, and then it's balls over the top and behind, and then it's AJ and Taylor trying to get back to cut them out.
Just having a look at the comments here to see what sort of confidence level there is. Jason's pretty confident. I saw somebody quoting 7-0 a minute ago. Well, there's a 6-0 as well.
There's always
so
a
it's going to be. We're going to get back to
business
as usual. Yeah. Does Kuhn start? Someone asks, where is it? Does Kuhn start on Saturday? Is Maeda ready? Well, yeah, what is the status? I think Kuhn is likely to. You want him to get a good game under his belt.
Rodgers said if Maeda didn't, if he didn't make the game there, he would make the game at the weekend. So I'd imagine that'd still be off the bench. I imagine, look, I'm not even sure Kuhn will start because it's such a big game that you might have to bring them off the bench to do the business. So let's see. Who knows?
And Mahesh saying Celtic's home form's much better than away form. Celtic should win by 2 or 3. That's encouraging. Is this accurate? Aberdeen's the only Scottish team that scored at Celtic Park this season. Is that right?
Hibs scored against us in the cup. I know that. So, and this is a cup game. I think Hibs got 3 against us in the cup. I know Aberdeen with the 2 all.
In the league anyway, he hastens to add. Sorry.
You're right.
Better pull that one up. Some people talking about form. Let's have a look at the respective form. Hibs, who you just got to mention there, look there, the form team in the Premier League. Number 1 spot. Good for them. Kilmarnock are down in 7th. You know, a couple of wins in there. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in their last 6. So make of that what you will. Look at Aberdeen.
Terrible.
Bottom position. That's pretty shocking.
It fell away. Yeah, it's very shocking. Ever since that cup defeat by us, we absolutely battered them, and they just went on a downward streak ever since. It's almost like they got found out that day. It's like, you're actually this bad, and they were just crap ever since.
Well, there's 387 people watching right now, so maybe we should treat them to a little bit of music and also encourage them, if they're new, to smash that subscribe button. And excitingly, we have the creator of this music among us today. It's just a short little ditty for you to enjoy.
Taylor's for sale or rent. We won't even get 50 cents. His contract's up in May. We better get Kieran Tierney. Greg served us well these years, but if he leaves, there'll be no tears. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, A Celtic World.
So talk to us about your inspiration behind that song, Michael. How did it all come about? How did you put it together?
Well, it all came from one of our other creators. What was his name? The guy who suggested King of the
David
Road
from
for
Bangkok. Yeah.
yes, for Taylor for Sailor Rent. So I was just sitting on my guitar on Sunday morning, and I just thought, oh, there's that. I remember that song, so I just started farting about with it. And thought I'd,
Was it
send
Jimmy
it in
Neal?
to you, Gavin. No, it's
What's
not
that?
Jimmy Neal. It's someone else. Who sings it now?
Wasn't it the
Someone else.
Pretender? No, not the the Proclaimers.
No, it wasn't
They
them.
not sing it?
No, it was some guy, some American country singer whose name escapes me now. Other people might have covered it afterwards.
Merle Haggard.
Can't remember his
Is it
name.
Merle Haggard?
No, it wasn't him.
Tell
either.
us in the comments who sang that song, King of the Road. David might know. There's David in the comments, actually. Saying great job. Taylor for Sailor Rent. But you always get some abuse. Look, the Monty covering his ears.
I think that's harsh considering what we usually serve up, Gavin, isn't it?
I think it's harsh the way I get abused constantly for what I serve up. Yeah. There's Maestro saying, enjoy the show. Lads, get a wee like, even with Gav's tunes. Oh my God, I thought that was someone being pleasant. Nothing but abuse in this place, Mickey. Huh? Shocking.
Oh well, we're well used
All
to
right.
it.
Well, look, we've gone over the hour, so Roger Miller. Is that who sang it? Not the Cameroonian
Not that footballer for
footballer.
Cameroon.
Roger Miller. A couple of people saying Roger Miller, 1888, and Jason. There you go. It must be Roger Miller.
Could be. Could be.
All right, there you go. So we'll go out on a little. I've only got one thing to share, which is Celtic. Oh no, I've got a couple of things. There's this. Apparently, the most Celtic player ever has been discovered. Do you know what I'm about to show?
I have no
Did you see
idea.
this?
I'm looking forward to this.
Tim Hoops, the German centre back, 19 years old. Imagine we signed him. Imagine we signed Tim Hoops. That'd be awesome. He's born to play for Celtic, isn't
He
he?
should be manifesting it, shouldn't he? He should be doing that.
Definitely.
And he's ginger as
He's a
well.
bargain.
Even better.
We,
Yeah.
we should do it just for the marketing gimmick, and then you could have hoops on the back of your shoulders. That would be good, wouldn't it?
You'd have to put his full name on the back of the shoulders. Tim Hoops.
Yeah, Tim Hoops. Yeah.
A favourite of the Celtic Daz.
Well, speaking of Celtic Daz, here's a video of one waxing lyrical about the club.
Celtic is a good move, huh? Is he enjoying it, Celtic?
Oh my God, it's
Nice fit for him, wasn't it?
it's perfect. It's perfect with the manager. He knows the atmosphere around. I mean,
Yeah.
Celtic is just a massive
Yeah,
club.
brilliant
I mean,
move
you
for
know that better than me, and then the team they have, it's amazing. I feel so privileged that I have those, that I can have those moments.
That's nice, isn't it? Schmeichel raving about Celtic like that.
Everybody
Yeah,
who comes up to Celtic starts that. No one realizes how big Celtic is until they get up the road and they find out and they go to the games and they're just like, they're blown away. Everyone's blown away when they go to Celtic.
That gave me a good laugh because one of the guys that posted it on Twitter, because I think it's from like a month or two back, and someone went, "Oh, here, you've posted that. It's like 2 months ago," and then the guy said, "Oh yeah, you're right. I better take it down then." So it's one of those classic kind of snarky back and forth on Twitter that was quite funny.
Is that made up, do you think? Tim Hoops?
That'll be real.
Motley says there was a player called Teddy De Beer. Teddy De Beer. Tim Hoops, what does this mean? Tim Hoops runs the Neil Lennon CSC in Dresden. Tim A. Hoops. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of that. All right, gentlemen. Yeah, Schmeichel and Keane never really got on. Well, they seem to get on now, okay. Right. We'll leave it at that, shall we? Kilmarnock in the cup. Next time we come back, it's Monday. We'll know the result of the cup game, and Young Boys is the game that we're up against. And I mean, the build up to this game is massive. We've been feeling it now, haven't we, for days already?
Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
I do keep the faith. I think we're going to have a good result against Kilmarnock. I think things will drop for us, and we'll go in slightly more confident. And if we beat Kilmarnock and we beat Young Boys, I mean, come on. We are in the clover. Huh?
Yeah,
Absolutely in the clover. Back to this being the best season ever. And forget all the other minor inconveniences of late.
Add in another meter goal, and place going to go wild.
These are small details of, complaining about players being slightly off form and in the middle of a tough season with loads of fixtures. Navigate these two games, and we are absolutely laughing. So let's remember that. Thanks to absolutely everybody in the comments. I'm sorry if I can't call them all up, or we can't talk about all of them. Usually when we're going through the game, we'll run through the pictures of the game first and then call up on the comments a bit more once we've got through that stage. But there was lots of awesome ones in there. People having a good time, chatting with each other, chatting to us. Lots of humour, as always. So thank you for partaking. As I always say, the people in the comments, Mickey, they're as much a part of a Celtic world as the faces you see on screen.
It's one big family. It's one big family.
One big happy family. Thank you, Nikoritsu.
Arigato.
Arigato, indeed. And let's leave on this positive note. The treble is still on.
Quadruple still on.
The quadruple is still on. On that happy note, cheerio, lads. See you on the next one.